Hello there and welcome to the first episode of Octalbloom. In this episode we'll be starting with It Starts With You. And what better way to find out who I am than to start with someone where I come from. So this is my mum Julie, and today we're going to be discussing things about who she is as a person and what sorts of things were going on in her life to find her identity and the person that she became in order to accept me for my sexuality. So thank you for doing this video with me today. I know it's very difficult for your age group to get on camera because this is something very new to get on there. What sorts of things were going on throughout your life that helped push you towards your acceptance of gay people? For example, in the 1980s there was a very big AIDS epidemic, but what was going on in your life at the time and how were you affected by the AIDS epidemic that went on in the 1980s?
Well, I think everyone was actually terrified, and like in my era, you very rarely heard of gay people, and if you saw a boy or a girl that were always on their own, you'd call him a puff or call her probably a leso, and it was very judgmental and not nice at all.
Do you think that your generation had an inherent, I guess, homophobia about them because of the AIDS epidemic, or is it because of, in that era, there wasn't much education about what gay people actually were?
Exactly. It was all about AIDS. We were all terrified of contracting AIDS.
In your schooling, for example, was there any support groups? Did you know of any support groups that were for gay people and for lesbians?
No, absolutely not, because it was never heard of, and I think if someone was born gay, they never dared tell anyone, and they never came out. And in my era it was boyfriend girlfriend. You'd write love notes. That's just what it was. Boy had to be with girl, girl had to be with boy. It was taboo.
Yeah.
And then when the AIDS epidemic came out, it was more focused not so much on lesbians. It seemed to be the males, like they're nothing but poofters. And I've said that myself. I'd be a liar if I said I didn't say it, and I have. And now that I know all about people that are gay, and well, you're born that way anyway. But absolutely, there was no education, nothing. And
how do you think? Did you know of anyone that was gay during that time? Did you know, or did you have kind of an idea that this person could be gay, and did they get picked on a lot, and how were they treated, and what sort of services did people try to offer them? Did anyone go to their aid or their help when they were being bullied, or?
No help whatsoever. There were no groups, there was no one there to help anyone, and if someone was portrayed as gay, in my era, they thought that it was abnormal. And I did have a very good friend who was gay, born gay. His parents tried to get him to go back to church, thinking God will fix him up and he'll get right, he'll get onto a woman. It was just evil. It just wasn't heard of, not thought of, it was wrong.
So what sort of things happened in your life to change your tune from, as you said, if you were at school and you were helping out someone who was gay, would people then assume that you were a lesbian yourself?
Oh God, yeah, birds of a feather.
Right.
Flocked together, absolutely.
So you were kind of torn between trying to prevent yourself from being bullied as well. But did you want to help those people?
I personally did, because as I grew older, I think we all become less judgmental, and then when you find a really good friend, and it's that one person that educated me about the gay society and everything, I just sat back and thought, well, geez, I actually felt sorry for them, because you're born gay, it's not a choice.
I think it's a very good point you bring up. And as you were growing up to when you were in your 30s and the time that you had me as a child, I know that in the 90s also was another, not necessarily outbreak of AIDS, but it was when the push for acceptance and equality was paramount for there. So what sort of things were growing up when you fell pregnant with me, and what sort of things were going on in society that you feared for my sake and my safety in regards to being gay?
Of course I wanted you to get married to a girl and have children naturally, and I wanted to be a grandmother, and the little house, the white picket fence and everything, you know, what parent doesn't?
So, and when I did come out to you, what sorts of things were, so let's take it back to, was there a point with me growing up, did you know that I was gay, or I was inherently different to the other guys?
Well, yes, you were different. You were probably a bit more feminine. But then, yeah, I saw other guys that were very much like you too, and they're as straight as they come. But you sort of didn't like any manual work, and your colours, and then when you didn't really have girlfriends, I started to think, And I think that time when you did have two girlfriends, you wrote love notes, and this probably sounds a bit funny, but I think the girl was hitting on you and you ran to me for help. Well, that's quite funny. But I didn't know then. And then when you told me you were gay, I'll be honest, I was shocked. In the sense that I kind of already knew all the what ifs, what did I do wrong, you know. And then after a few months, you know, when I realised that you're born gay and all the education out there and that, I have no problem with it. I don't think anyone else should either, because people should be free to love who they want to. And I know in my era there are a lot of suicides, and now that I think back, those people, females too, and males, have taken their own life. After a few years you got thinking, well, you know, they were never with anyone of the opposite sex, and they certainly weren't ugly or unattractive. And I've got some very beautiful friends who are gay, and actually I love gay people. They seem more happy, and yet they have it very hard. That breaks my heart.
So what sort of, if you could speak to a parent or perhaps a child out there who is struggling with their sexuality and wanting to go to their parents and tell them their sexuality, what sort of tips would you give, firstly, the parents? So what, if you can have your time again to do the coming out process again, would you do things differently if you knew what you knew now back then?
Oh, hell yeah. I would have just hugged you. Good on you. Love you. I mean, you love your children regardless. I mean, you love them as soon as they're in your womb. Whether you adopt them, you love them. And it shouldn't matter.
What sort of messages would you have for children out there who are trying to, what would be some effective ways for them to come out to their parents? Because I know that my coming out process was very morbid, in the sense that you heard it from my sister first, and you know, it all just unraveled in a big bombshell, so that's probably not a really effective way. Would you have appreciated a bit more if I had come to you?
Oh God, yeah, I think every child should go and tell their parents, because there is so much education out in the world today. Just should accept children straight away.
So
don't
what would you
put them down, don't try and change them. Don't send them to church. And
what would you say to parents who are struggling with the acceptance of their child? For example,
honestly,
if you've got the religious fundamentalists who are so extreme with their religion and they think that God is punishing them by giving them a gay child. You've got parents who are so, I guess stuck in their old ways, very conservative people, who find that it's insulting for their child to be gay because that's not how they raised them. So I guess, is there any rules and guidelines that you've lived by now, as me being an adult gay person, how you've learned to accept that? And I know you bring up unconditional love as a parent, but sometimes parents are often clouded by their views and beliefs that this unconditional love can't breed. So are gay people supposed to, I guess, come out in stages to those people, or are we supposed to say, this is who I am? And what would you advise kids whose parents aren't accepting of them and want to kick them out of home and those types of things? Because it does happen. There's so many people who get kicked out and are homeless now because their parents don't accept it. So is Is there any message of support you can give those kids who are struggling on the outskirts?
Yeah, well, hell yeah, just get over it.
So,
you know, just accept them for God's sakes. You know, they're born with 2 legs, a heartbeat, they get a job, they work, they're the same as everyone else. Let them, I mean, if some of the parents are getting cranky and all that sort of stuff, look it up, study a bit more. All people should come straight out with it and tell their parents how it is. Not in stages, no way. Most people will find out their parents will love them and accept them anyway. Because if they don't, they shouldn't have had any bloody children. Sorry, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, no,
They shouldn't have had children, full stop.
That's perfectly fine. Alright, I appreciate Mum for coming and talking about her time growing up and also when I came out to her as a gay child. So thank you goes to her. If you guys have any more requests or questions for my mum as a parent of a gay child, please leave it in the comments below. And look forward to next week's video, which will be with my grandfather again on Octalbloom. It starts with you.